Hey, general contractors, renovation experts, and construction professionals. Protecting your business should be a top priority. Your clients require you to have liability insurance as a condition of the contracts you sign. By having construction liability insurance, you not only fulfill those requirements, but also demonstrate professionalism, reliability, and a commitment to your client's protection. It's a win-win situation for your business. Construction liability insurance is vital to protect you from the risks and liabilities that come with your line of work. It provides essential coverage for property damage, coverage for third-party damage or bodily injury, and other incidents that may occur during construction or renovation projects. Visit zensurance.com/save35 for a free construction liability insurance quote and get the comprehensive protection you need. Hello and welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me today I have...
Hi, good morning. My name is Siavash Mohajer. I work with Public Services and Procurement Canada as the Senior Director of Construction on the Center Block Rehabilitation Program.
And that's what we're talking about. It's a massive project and really important. I mean, this is literally the symbol of our democracy in Canada. So let's start with what was the building's, about more than 100 years old. What were some of the reasons that it needed to be rehabilitated in the first place?
So you're right, the building is quite old. It was not modern. It didn't meet the modern needs of Parliament. It didn't meet modern code, building code, seismic code, health and safety, things like that. So the approach we're taking is we're going to gut the building essentially down to the bare bones and build it back up, and make sure that we do meet all the modern requirements of Parliament in terms of IT and connectivity, but at the same time, modernize the building to make sure that the building is sustainable. Center Block used to be one of the worst performing buildings in terms of sustainability within the PSPC portfolio. And once we're finished with the rehabilitation, it's going to be one of the best. It's going to be net carbon neutral. It's going to meet and exceed universal accessibility standards. It's going to one of the biggest things, and I'll talk about this later, is it's going to meet seismic code, which is a very huge challenge in the building. Previously, it didn't meet any of the seismic code, and Ottawa is a lot of people don't know this, but Ottawa is a fairly active seismic zone. So we're going to make sure that we meet that as well.
Now it's a long project. I think it's not when's it finished? I think it's a few years down the road for sure.
It's a few years down the road. So we're expecting to finish around 2030, 31 with construction, so substantial completion. And Parliament itself will take probably about a year to move into the building, get familiar with it, do training and commissioning before parliamentarians will actually move into the building and use it as an operational building.
Now, obviously things were a lot different 100 odd years ago when they built it. So what are some of the things you're able to do now that they couldn't do then? What can you go, oh, this is a golden opportunity to use this technique or this material that we couldn't use before?
Yeah, so it's obviously technology has come a long way. The building itself had very limited, for example, ventilation and HVAC, especially on the upper floors. So we have this challenge of modernizing the building, but at the same time realizing that it's a heritage building. It's
Right.
Canada's history. So we have to really respect that heritage fabric and make sure we're not disturbing it or destroying it, but at the same time upgrade the building to meet current and future needs of Parliament. So a lot of the challenges that we're facing is actually space. For example, we're not able to run services, mechanical and electrical, through the walls because there's certainly no space. And with the heritage fabric sitting sometimes right onto the structure, it's very difficult. So we've put in some innovative techniques. For example, we're going to be running typically these types of services run horizontally on the floors. We're going to be running them vertically, and that way we don't need to use ceiling spaces and things like that. One of the biggest challenges that, as I mentioned, that we have is seismic. So we're taking a base isolation approach, which is fairly new in the eastern part of the country, but in the West Coast and the Pacific Rim, it's a fairly common method for upgrading the seismic capability of the buildings. And that really, again, ties into we're not going to be disturbing the building as much because we don't have to structurally upgrade the building as much because we have the base isolation.
Now, I know with older projects like mines, for instance, this is not that obviously, but sometimes you look at the blueprints and it's a suggestion.
Yeah,
It's not what they actually ended up doing. Did
that's
you
right.
run into that, or did you find that the old documentation was actually helpful?
So we've had a lot of lessons learned from our previous projects, and to your point, you don't always find what's on the blueprints. So what we did was we took the blueprints, but at the same time, when the building was emptied, we spent a lot of time doing
Mm-hmm.
investigations of the building to make sure that A, we eliminated surprises, and B, it was reflective of what we thought we were going to find. And in fact, one of the large undertakings that we did was we partnered with Carleton University. Um, so with their immersive media studios, and we completely modeled the building. So the entire existing structure is in a BIM model, and
Mm-hmm.
the design is occurring at the same time within the BIM model. So we're really working in BIM to make sure that we take into account the existing conditions, and then moving forward, hopefully for the future generations, we leave them, as built drawings that are more reflective
Mm-hmm.
of what we've built. And in that way, we've eliminated, a lot of surprises. We're about 90% completed with demolition and abatement, so we're down to really the skeleton, as I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't found too many surprises in the building.
Now, it's a heritage, and it's got to look exactly the same on the exterior as it did. But what about the interior? Are there things where you recalibrate and change rooms around, or add space where there wasn't, or given what you have to work with, can you like expand rooms, or do you add facilities? Like, what can you do within the palette of the interior?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. We For the high heritage areas, so I'm talking the
Mhm.
chambers, right? The House of
Right.
Commons
Yeah.
chamber and the Senate
Mm-hmm.
chamber, the Hall of Honor, the Rotunda, really talking the second and third floors mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we will ensure that we completely respect the heritage fabric. So
Mm-hmm.
to the average person, the building's not going to look any different in those spaces,
Mm-hmm.
but the infrastructure and the modernization of those spaces is going to be immense, with little impact to the look and feel of the building. Same thing on the exterior. There are about there are a large number of heritage rooms, the Pearson special rooms, as we call them,
Mm-hmm.
and those ones will really just be um, taken back to where what they were. And an interesting fact is, over the years, as you said, the building's about 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Not all interventions have respected the original vision of the
Mm-hmm.
building. So people might be surprised when they come back. The rooms may look different, and that's because we're going to take it back to the original intent of the building, and not the changes that have been made over the last 20, 30 years. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of a there's going to be a little bit of Easter egg there for people to be able to see the differences.
Now, this next question, you obviously cannot get into details on this, but security 100 years ago was a different idea than it is now.
Yeah.
And also you had the convoy, and you've had incidents that where you have worries.
Mhm.
So did that factor in with, like I said, you probably shouldn't go into specifics, and you couldn't anyway. But was that something you had to account for when you were building the building? Like you've got, all parliamentarians, very important people are in there, so you need to account for that, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, the world has changed, obviously.
Mm.
I recall the days where you could walk into Parliament or drive
Yeah.
around Parliament
Hmm.
Hill. So that has changed. One of the things that this project will, in a way that we're addressing these issues,
Hmm.
is by the construction of the Parliament Welcome Center, which is a brand new building
Mm.
really at the base of the center block, underground facility, and that's really going to be the new entrance to Parliament. So what we've done is we've taken all of that screening out of the building, and we've put it into the Parliament Welcome Center.
Hmm.
So when people come in, when the public comes in, they'll be screened through the Parliament Welcome Center. But it actually, by the construction of this building, we're actually increasing or improving the visitor experience as well, because
Hmm.
our throughput's going to be a lot better, and we're going to be really able to separate the public from the parliamentary business. And really, these things in terms of security are a little bit at odds with each other, but
Hmm.
through the Parliament Welcome Center, we're able to address them. And something else that the Parliament Welcome Center will do is it connects it integrates the entire Parliament Hill together as one campus. So it will connect West Block to East Block to Center Block. So parliamentarians will be able to move around the three buildings in secured areas. And also the public it will also give the public access to the building.
Mm-hmm.
So it really improves the security without diminishing the experience.
Now, I remember a few years ago, I wrote a story about somebody who's working on 3D printing gargoyles, because there's gargoyles all over the buildings, and they wanted to preserve them. So that's one example. What are some other examples of using like sort of cutting edge stuff to make this to add to the heritage aspect, I guess? And you also mentioned Carleton. What kind of outreach are you doing with educational and other cultural institutions to sort of work together on this?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We have a wholly separate decorative arts program. So the Dominion Sculpture, who's part of Public Services Procurement Canada, leads that. And we work with Parliament to kind of identify opportunities to tell Canada's story. So we do take molds of most of the gargoyles and carvings in the building, and we will restore some of them, because some of them, especially the ones on the exterior, have been quite weathered and damaged, and we will restore them. Interestingly enough, there are about 180 blank blocks inside Center Block. So a lot of people don't know this, but when the building was first opened, most of the carvings inside were not there. So the building was a canvas. And over the years, the Dominion sculptors have been able to tell Canada's story through the carvings. We're going to be doing the same. And moving forward, very likely inside the Parliament Welcome Center, we will leave some blanks for the future generations to continue telling the story. And that's really innovative in terms of, how we restore the existing carvings and also how we do the new carvings. With respect to kind of innovative techniques, a big thing that we've started doing on the exterior masonry is cleaning the stone through laser cleaning. So it's a lot faster, it's more cost effective, and you get a better end product, and you're not really damaging the existing stone. And when I would say when, for example, we started on the West Block program, there was not in Ottawa anyways, there was not really a masonry field. There was not a lot of qualified personnel. So we worked with colleges and we actually brought in a lot of masons from outside of Canada, and we've built up an industry within Ottawa where now within the parliamentary precinct there's a lot of masonry happening, and we've created that industry in Ottawa by partnering with various organizations and creating that demand to the point where we have large masonry rehabilitation projects, and we're able to find the talent within Canada.
Okay, and if people are interested, I'm sure they are, in finding out more or seeing the work in progress, where would they go online to find that out?
We so the Center Block Rehabilitation Project is on the Public Services Procurement website, and we do quarterly reports as to what the updates are and what we plan on undertaking in the next few months. So I encourage people to just Google it. More broadly speaking, the parliamentary precinct is going through the long-term and vision plan. That's also on the website. So that's bigger than Center Block itself. It's the entire precinct, and it'll give people an idea of the work we've done to date and what is coming up in the next decade and beyond.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today, Siavash.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to be here. I'm very, very proud of what we do here, and as you mentioned, this is our symbol of democracy, so we have to make sure we get it right.